again, I am Olia with Face2Face with Olia. We have Miss America, Camille Schrier with us tonight.
Thank you.
She's Miss America 2020, not only one term, but she's going to be flowing into a second term. So Camille, we were asking you some questions about just another briefing about who you are, because I want to take people from the beginning as much as possible. And then I'm going to ask some questions that our audience had.
So
you were from Pennsylvania? Is it Pennsylvania? Grew up in Pennsylvania?
Okay. Yes, I grew up in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia area. I've been here my whole life. And I say that, but I moved to Virginia a few years ago, and I've been there kind of semi-permanently as I'm doing my graduate education. And I did my undergraduate education there as well. So I kind of toggle back and forth. So I was Miss Virginia, but my home is in Pennsylvania. And so I've been here in Pennsylvania throughout COVID. I'm a nerdy scientist. I do science as Miss America. I did science as my talent. And I'm a doctor of pharmacy student. So those are kind of like, that's like the Reader's Digest version of who I am.
And so you went to school at Virginia Tech, right? That's where
I did. Go Hokies. I have my Virginia Tech sign behind me.
And
I also go to the VCU School of Pharmacy. So I have all of my colleges and my schools represented on my wall behind me.
Awesome. And just for the sake of the audience, you have a platform that you stand on as Miss America, not only because of being Miss America, but it's your heartfelt platform that you want to be able to help people. It's called Mind Your Meds. It is. Will you just kind of brief us a little bit on that, please?
Yes. So we each get to choose a social initiative that we want to work on throughout our time, whether or not you're a state title holder or Miss America. And I chose medication safety and abuse prevention. I grew up with a mom that's a nurse. And so I was always really comfortable around medicines because she was, and she taught me about them. And I got to pharmacy school and I realized how dangerous medicine can be when not used properly or when misused, whether or not intentionally or unintentionally. When we think about things like substance use disorder and the opioid epidemic in our country, that sometimes stems from prescription medications, and what can we do to change those things? And so I talk to people from pre-K all the way up to full-grown adults and older adults about staying safe with medicines and substances. And of course, that comes from the fact that I'm also a pharmacy student too. But it's a great way to also be able to continue my career path through this. And a lot of people don't recognize the fact that Miss America can give you an opportunity to further your career. And that's pretty much the exact way that I get to do that this year.
Yes. And we talked earlier about the COVID. When I interviewed you before the pandemic and before the virus started that we knew of, you were traveling different places, doing conferences, different cities, just a very, very busy schedule. And then everything shifted once the virus, we had the virus lockdown. I call it the virus lockdown, the pandemic. And then you switch that and you begin to do videos, and you share a little bit about that again for our audience, please.
So of course, Miss America is meant to be on the road. That's my intended job, to be able to meet people and go to conferences and go to schools and talk to people, but I can't do that right now. And it's really weird because there has never been a time, even in times of war, that Miss America couldn't travel. So I'm the first. I'm the first of a lot of things this year. But I've been able to translate a lot virtually, and I do a lot with students. I talked about that I do science. That's what I love to do outside of the medication safety piece. But I've been able to create science videos for students. I have a science mini series with PBS this year that I created. I sit in my basement and I do science, and I am able to video that and post that online and share that with students and parents who are looking for extra stuff to do at home. Tested all of my innovation skills this year, but one of the things to be a successful Miss America that I was told before I got this job and then realized very quickly was very true is that you have to be really flexible through this process because things can change every day. You might show up to an event and it's 100% different than what you expected when you get there. So that's kind of true for the entire year. I thought the year was going to go one way, but it's gone another. And I just have to pivot and work with what I have at that given time. And so I've been able to be creative and get to do stuff I wouldn't have gotten to do this year. So I'm trying to stay true in that.
Wow. Yeah. So what about your education? Was that still on hold? Because I know you are primarily working for the organization Miss America.
That's
So did you get back into your education during this time, or are you did it?
not yet. I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of people don't recognize that Miss America is a full-time job. So I am a full-time employee. I get paid, I go to work, I just do something a little different. But
Yeah.
I have now taken 2 years off of my education, which terrified me at first because I am so focused on getting my doctorate. But I will say, remember how we said we were talking about Esther and perhaps, you're made for such a time as this, like why do these particular things happen? What better time to take 2 years off from school than during a pandemic?
During a pandemic, yeah. For such a time as this. But you know what? Everything, when we talked before, it seemed like everything in your life was like, of course, preordained by God. We know that. But sometimes we are amazed, because it was your first time running for Miss America and you won. And, we talked about for such a time as this, you were destined to be Miss America 2020. And I'm not going to say who knows, because God already knew that the pandemic was going to take place, but it also knew that it was a time for you to take some time off, plus move into the technology era to do what you do. And you said
tested
you
all
were
of my
telling us
skills.
Yeah. It's in all your skills.
For sure. And, I talk about STEM a lot, this science, technology, engineering, and math. But I do a lot of the S. I do a lot of the science piece. I'm really bad at the T piece. So me and Zoom don't always get along. And then I had not really ever been in a situation where I was relying upon technology to do my job. But here's the thing, I've learned so much more about it. And so if I ever get into the situation, maybe as we think of like that term, the new norm, we're going to probably be doing a lot of things more virtually now because now we're more comfortable with it. So as I continue through my life, it'll be skills that I'll be able to apply later. So again, I'm probably painfully positive to some people, but I feel like if we're not positive this year, we'll all go crazy. So that's what
that's right. And I remember you talked a lot about making transition, and no matter what happened, you got to know how to make a transition, how to pivot that and make something great out of it. And that's what you have done. You didn't get discouraged and say, oh my, I'm Miss America 2020. And yes, I started out great. Now, what am I doing? But Zoom, you know what? Zoom, I like traditional television. I really do. And that's the network. That's what we are working on now. I haven't gotten used to the Zoom. I'm trying, but I think they're still adjusting as well because of the experience we just had tonight. Can you imagine that with children, young, impressionable children, seeing what we saw tonight?
It's scary. And I think to that point, when I talk and I go through this year and I do a lot online now. I have a lot of social media accounts. I'm managing in the public eye virtually now. And it's dangerous. The comments, the messages, the hateful comments, the creepy comments, the things that we experience on the internet, I think, and I'm not making myself sound old, but what I will say is that the younger generation today, I know I'm not old, so I'm not trying to say that I'm old, but the group that's younger than I didn't grow up with social media. It was only a thing that happened my high school, college years that it really became prevalent. But there are students who are elementary, middle school age students who that's now the norm for them that I didn't have. So when I think about technology like Zoom, having people come in and say things that you don't want to hear in those age groups can be so damaging. And it's
Yes,
eye-opening to me now as an adult, and makes me tell the little ones, like, just stay off of it. You don't need it.
yes,
It's not worth
yes,
it.
yes. But we're in the technological era now.
Yeah.
I don't see us just going backpedaling, going to for back from that. We're in a new, they call it the new norm. So how do we deal with this? Because I think a lot of parents were already concerned about their impressionable children, teenagers, and younger children getting on the internet and seeing some of the things that we saw tonight,
Yeah.
you know?
I know my parents were really, really adamant about monitoring what I was doing online when
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
young. So I'm in my childhood bedroom right now, which is funny because I'm home
Wow.
from the pandemic. But
Yeah.
when I grew up, I was never allowed to have internet in my room. If I wanted to use the internet, we didn't have Wi-Fi, mind you, because
Wow.
that's my era. I had to go down and plug my computer in downstairs because my parents wanted to be
Mhm.
able to see what I was doing on the computer. And
Yes.
I thought that was annoying, but I understand why they did that, because they wanted to make sure they knew what I was looking at and what I was doing, and to protect me in a way. But we
Yeah.
also didn't have these. So I think about how
Yeah,
that
that's
changed
right.
things. I don't envy parents right now who are
Yeah.
dealing with COVID and virtual learning and the internet with their children. I don't know how I would manage that.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very much concerned about that. I know there's a way around it. No matter how many passwords they give you, somebody's gonna break that code, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so we need to trust God even more today than ever, than ever. Um, so we talked a little bit about your reign, since you've been Miss America 2020.
Mhm.
And I want to ask this question in the recording. One young lady was asking about your what would you advice would you give your younger self in
Yeah.
your adolescence and teen years, given the knowledge and exposure that you've experienced just for now that you can look back at it? What would you say?
Yeah. I would tell my younger self to not be so hard on herself. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we're all a little bit hard on ourselves. I think that that's what pushes us to be successful in our lives. So there's a certain level of
Yeah.
that that's healthy. But I think
Yes.
I was so focused on what I was doing wrong in certain situations and what I could have done better, rather than
Yeah.
focusing on what I did right and learning from the different mistakes or problems that I encountered. And
Mhm.
I had a really negative attitude in a lot of pieces of my life, not toward other people, but toward myself, that
Yeah.
I was never good enough. I was never doing what I needed to do, even though I was
Wow.
probably doing fine. In fact, I was doing very much fine. And I was so
Uh-huh.
focused on everything I wasn't doing. If I could tell myself to focus more on the positive, I think that I would have been able to recognize the good that I was achieving at in those periods of time in my life, and I would have been a
Yes.
happier person. And I
Yeah.
think I would have learned a lot more through that. And I don't think I'm alone in that problem. I think a lot of us do that.
A lot of us, yeah. But you know what? I think for such a time as this in 2020, just
Mhm.
like Esther, and we talked about this, God chose you for this, you know,
Yeah.
um, for this time and to strengthen you, to grow you, for you to be an example for a lot of young people. Because see, honestly, to talk to you, you are much more mature than maybe a lot of 20 and 24-year and 25-year olds. Yeah. And
I hope
so,
so. I try.
yeah. Okay. 2020.
Mhm.
Will you be reigning 2021?
That if I had a dollar for every time I got that question, I would be able to pay for all of my education combined.
Yeah.
Um, the answer is more complicated than you would probably like it to be. I
Yeah.
am going to be some kind of a modified version of Miss America next year, but I won't be full-time Miss America. I can't be because I
Yeah.
have to go back to school. So
Yeah.
education is my number one priority. And it's part of the reason why I was interested in Miss America to begin with, because I earned almost $80,000 of scholarship money which is
Yes, yes,
mind-boggling. But now I want
yes,
to go use it. So I'm going to go back to school next
yeah,
year so I can
yeah,
eventually graduate. But I'll probably do some things here and there next year as I'm leading up to that. But I will be
yes.
honest, and this year has been difficult. And Miss America during the pandemic or Miss America during a regular year, being Miss America is a
Mhm.
hard job.
Yes.
And so I am looking forward to getting back to some sense of a normal life and normalcy. Moving back to my Virginia house, and I just got
Mhm.
a puppy, so she's going to come with me. And I want to live life as
I thought
Camille too. So
I thought you had a cat. Did you have a cat before?
I I have two cats, and they're actually right over
And now,
there.
and now you got a dog, a
And now I
puppy.
have a puppy. I told you I love animals. They're just
I know.
as long as there's animals all around me, I am a happy camper.
Wow. Okay. What would you tell in given this season right now, other young women and men
Mhm.
that's trying to figure out their direction now because things is such in an unrest and kind of turbulent time for some.
Yeah.
What would you, from a professional standpoint, what would you say? Would you say people should continue to pursue and they not have a lot of uncertainties about jobs, etc.?
There's so much uncertainty. It's so difficult. It's difficult to get a job as a young professional, especially
Yeah.
independent of a pandemic.
Hmm.
But I think that this kind of goes back to the way that I've approached my year as Miss America. I would say to be creative and innovative, because if you
Yeah.
want to stand out in a group of people, you have to be something different and you have to show
Yes.
what makes you unique. And you have to sometimes
Yeah.
figure out what makes you unique because it's not always obvious to all of us. What can I offer that no
Yeah.
one else can offer? It takes some
Yeah.
self growth and understanding to know that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the other things that helped me a lot as I was trying to figure out my career path, and I can't speak for getting a job because I haven't gotten there yet,
Yeah.
was exploring and seeking mentors. Because I think if we are able to see people and really picture what
Hmm.
a potential career or job or position can look like by literally seeing someone that's already doing it, I think that
Yes.
we can kind of try that on for size before we go, full speed ahead toward that. And that was
Uh-huh.
something that helped me. But you can't just emulate someone else. You have to figure out what makes that path yours as well. So I think that
Yes.
focusing on that is
Yes.
also important.
Yes. So pursuing the education, though they may have to do it, do you really feel that not only younger people, but everybody should learn as much technology and the safety of it as well, because it is kind of wide open right now.
It is. I Technology is of course so important to
Yes.
really every career path now, whether or not you are an artist, if you are a
Yeah.
writer, if you are a doctor, technology will touch your job in some way. So I think the more that we can understand how to utilize it in a safe way, and
Yes.
more than anything, it's kind of like when I'm in pharmacy school, right? And I'm taught the certain points at which I could make a mistake and
Yes.
being cognizant of those weak points to know, okay, what am I going to do to protect myself and protect my identity online or protect my
Hmm.
image
Hmm.
online. um Having that knowledge is going to help us
That's
be more
scary, isn't
responsible.
it? That's scary,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It's
Protecting
scary.
your
It makes
image. Yeah.
And even
Wow.
just like when we think about webcams on our computers, I'm always cognizant of making sure that I'm covering up my webcams when I am not using my computer, because people can
Yeah.
hack into your computer. And just taking those little steps just to be able to have the right privacies, I
Hmm.
think is never going to hurt. It's not being, you know, um, too paranoid, but I think
Yeah.
it's steps that we can take to be safe. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I agree. I mean, we are at this place now that we can't run from it. We must face the fears. We must look for the safety and people that can safeguard, you know, because right now it's the knowledge is just wide open worldwide. And we have to deal with it because sometimes I'm a little weary banking online. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there's got to be a different way to do this. And no matter what, you know, safety system that someone out there trying to break it. So I guess that's why we need to have security people, you know, to help us with this technology that we're going through. I had someone that asked a question. Let me see. I just want to ask, because I know a lot of people going to want to get this afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you were patient enough to allow me to complete this interview because people were very, very excited. We had a lot of folks online. I had some people ask me the question, and I don't know if you get a lot of questions about our social unrest and political unrest that we are going through now. Do you get questions and people ask you those questions? You know, what are your views? What are your feelings about what is going on? And you are very high profile, so I know it affects you in a different way than maybe the norm.
It's hard because I'm in a position where I try to stay so neutral in certain situations, especially when it comes to politics, especially this year in politics.
Yes.
But I think it's hard to deny that, you know, there's so much social unrest happening in our country, which I think I mean, it starts, you know, hundreds of years ago, but even kind of has come to a head in the last 100 years, 20 years, when we think about kind of like how things have changed.
So we got to deal with it. We're put in a position. Now we got to, just like technology, we've got to deal with some things.
We have to deal with issues that have been part of our society underlying for so long and have become part of social norms, which is unfortunate. And I, of course, as a Christian woman, I was always taught to love my neighbor, no matter what color they were, no matter who they loved, no matter what their background was. If they had more money than me, less money than me, a different job, it didn't matter. And so that is always what I fall back on, especially with what's happening. And that becomes so difficult, especially when we think about, you know, racial equality and racial, you know, injustice, where I am there as a person who's not experienced some of the things that, you know, Black Americans have or Americans of color have. I don't have those experiences. So I have to learn from others' experiences. And so that's been something that I've really been able to focus on this year so that I have a better perspective of what other people go through. And I will say, this entire experience being Miss America has opened me up to the different environments and perspectives and experiences that people throughout our whole country go through in a way that, you know, me being from suburban Philadelphia for my whole life, I didn't see certain, you know, problems in my area. I didn't experience things that other people did. So I think that that's something that we can all do, no matter, you know, what color or creed that we are, is opening up our minds to understanding the experiences of others. And that's something that I definitely focus on this year.
Yes. Not just wearing a crown, but really having compassion for people, humanity, you know.
Absolutely.
And it has to come from the heart, you know. I
It
often
does.
have heard a saying that what comes from the heart will reach your heart, you know, and you can receive that same love from in your heart. When I met you, I was reminded of Esther. You know, I saw a picture that I even have on my website. And you look like this lady. She's a queen, got a crown on. She's absolutely gorgeous, right? And I said, is this the same person?
That's too funny.
But yeah, but one of your favorite scriptures is coming out of the book of Esther.
Yeah.
For such a time as this. 2020 was a year that God was shaking things up. Even with God placed you in this position at this appointed time, as Miss America, the reigning Miss America. And share a little bit about that, because even with that, you've been crowned Miss America. Everything has been sort of different from the norm with Miss
Yeah.
America in the past, wouldn't you say?
100%. I mean, no
Yeah,
Miss America has ever had a year like mine. And we talked a little bit about how this was my first time ever competing for Miss America. It was
yeah,
not something that I ever thought that I would do. But I
yes,
say that because I think it actually gave me such an advantage this year because I had no expectations or preconceived notions of when I
yeah,
finally won Miss America, what my year would be like because I never thought that it was going to happen.
yeah,
Maybe that's part of the reason why this was the year that I was going to represent. Maybe
yes.
there's other reasons when I think about that maybe there's reasons I don't even know yet of why I'm doing this year.
I think so. I think there are reasons that you're going to continue to discover. And the
I do
pandemic
too.
is another, the virus, I mean, you were ready to take off. They were booking you all over the place. You were speaking and traveling. And all of a sudden, for such a time as this, everything shifted, you know?
Something's different. And it's funny, I don't know if I got to share this with you before, but I have
Yeah.
a genetic disorder and I
Okay.
struggle with chronic fatigue syndrome. And so
Wow.
I was starting to get to the point about 2 months in where traveling 28 days a month was really wearing on my emotional and physical energy.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then everything stopped, which is kind of crazy to think about. And one of my
You
biggest
mean,
concerns coming into the
yeah,
year as
yeah,
Miss America was being able to manage my energy levels. And so then
yeah.
I was gifted a year from home. And that also kind of freaks me out that was meant to be for some reason.
For such a time as this, that word keep coming up. Yeah.
Yes.
And then even now with you diving more into science in your basement, and making videos and learning learning the technology, just shifting, going with the flow, what has been dealt with you. God chose you for that. He knew that you were resilient, that you had
Mhm.
that in you. You didn't
Yeah.
probably didn't fully know it, but God knew it.
I think
Yeah.
that's true. So many times
Yeah.
do I feel like I mean, I still struggle through this job. I struggle through this year, and I have
Yeah.
days where I question if I'm doing enough or doing a good enough job or that I have the strength to do it all.
Yeah.
But I think just the fact that I have the opportunity to do it and I've made it through it so far, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's more than just me.
Yes. Yes. So moving forward
Hmm.
as Miss America, and basically, is there a time when your reign ends, or I know you will be still doing some things that Miss America would have you do because they don't have another Miss America. So
So
so so how does Camille, do what you need to do and still be available to the organization?
that's a wonderful question that I wish I knew the answer to. I will transition out of my full-time role at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
I will be a modified version in 2021. But the really cool thing is that given that my finals are not that week, I should be there to crown the 100th anniversary Miss America at the end
Yeah.
of 2021. So I'll
Yeah.
still be around.
Yeah.
I won't be fully off the hook until I guess 2022 now.
Yeah.
But I will still be able to be Camille, hopefully. And I think that I say that, but in the same respect, I still get to be Camille now. I just
Yeah.
am Camille with somebody else managing my schedule
Yeah.
throughout this
Yeah.
time. But I really do try to do my best to stay Camille through this process. I
Hmm.
never wanted this process to change me. It just
Yeah.
has a little bit more autonomy over
It's
my life than me.
cause you to grow more and mature more
Yes.
and advance in good ways. Yeah.
Yes. And I do get to be myself and I do get to, be at home and have my dog and have somewhat of a normal life. But of course I am looking forward to be able to continue that. But I have some more things to finish up before I am for sure done.
Yeah. So what is your faith like and through all of this? Your prayer line, do you, because I know you have to have a faith to keep moving, faith in God to keep moving forward and being
Yeah.
responsible to the position as Miss America.
Yeah, I absolutely do have faith. And it's something that, quite honestly, I should probably spend more time on than I do. But I think that as
Yeah.
so many of us get so wrapped up into our busy lives and all of the stressors in our
Yes.
life, we stray from that sometimes.
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
I'll be the first one to admit that I can be that person as well. But I think that knowing that when I do have struggles, that there is someone else that has a greater plan for my life, that even though I might have a horrible day, but I
Uh-huh.
can know
Uh-huh.
that there's a reason why I'm going to go through that and be true in that. And that will lead to new opportunities in my life. I fall back on
Yes.
that often. And
Mm-hmm.
I do remember Esther often, but I do need to connect a little bit more personally with God throughout this time and remind
Yes.
him how grateful I am to have him as part of my life.
Yes. Wrapping up, getting ready to wrap up. What would you tell people? We're in what would be the word? A dilemma, uncertainties, but yet certain, still certain of God, very confident in God. That is for sure, solid.
Mhm.
But what would you say to people now, given the situation when politically speaking
Mm.
and socially speaking, economically speaking, how would you encourage the people in this vast area?
Mhm. I think that looking at our world right now, dilemma
Mhm.
is a very kind word to
It
describe our
is.
world
It is.
right
It
now.
is. I was trying to be nice. I was
You
trying to be
are you're
nice.
being very kind because it's kind of a mess. Everything's
It
kind of a
is.
mess. But
Yeah.
when we look at, as a society, we've strayed so far away from God.
Yes.
And quite frankly, whether or not your God is Jesus Christ or someone
Yeah.
else, whatever your
Yeah.
faith is, we've strayed away from faith in so many pieces of our life as we've
Yeah.
become more focused on technology and social media and all these different things. That maybe our world is reminding us that we need to go back to the roots of who we are as a community and who we are as a society and focus more on God. Um,
Yes.
because whether or not we're thinking about, our own health, our own mental health, or things like social injustice, can that
Yes.
be cured through God? I think that faith cures a lot. I think that it
Yes.
can
I
endure a
agree.
lot of issues. And so if
Yes.
we refocus our time and energy back on the Lord, I think that we're going to make a lot of progress as a community, as a world, as a society, and as a country. Need to focus on that
Yes.
a little bit more.
Yeah. So different. For such a time as this, Camille Schrier came into the role and title of Miss America 2020. And even internet, it was not the norm. And even
Yeah.
now, nothing is the norm. And now with the social unrest and the economic situation, there's a lot of good things that are happening too, Camille.
Yeah.
A lot of great things because there's a transition that's going on. And if we look at it in the right manner, it would be for the good. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so,
We have to talk about it. Absolutely.
yeah. So I thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and thank you for um, rising above some folks that have all sorts of issues and and also uh, I think what happened even tonight on the video on Zoom say that we need to really protect our children more. We need to keep our eyes more on because technology is so broad and so wide and so open. And if we're not
Absolutely.
careful, many can be vulnerable. Not only the young can be vulnerable, but also some of the mature people can be very, very vulnerable because this technology is very new to a lot of people, not necessarily to the younger, I say the younger generation. Um, but I thank you so much. I thank you for your openness, for your honesty, and for your patience. And for your graciousness. You know, you could have said, I'm not coming back on this program, but I thank you because there were a lot of people on. As you can tell, I'm very resilient. I'm not going to allow the enemy to stop something great. I know that you had something that the people wanted to hear and they wanted to see you. Just seeing you inspired them. And then once they hear the video and the recordings, I know they're going to be really, really blessed. I thank you. I humbly thank you. I really do. I thank you for being you. I really do. Because you could have said no, but you didn't. And I thank you very much.
You. Thank you so much for having me back again. It's been so wonderful to chat with you again. And thank you for what you do, because bringing this, you know, talking about, focusing on our religion, focusing on, being resilient and seeing the good in things is all about what we need to do right now. So thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you. And much love to your mother and your father's there, to your little animals, your little creatures.
My little zoo.
Your little zoo.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. Continue to be a very beautiful and prosperous person. You are a beautiful woman, but I want to speak to the person, Camille Schrier. Miss America 2020. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Night.